The Beverly Hills sun glowed against towering mansions, each one a symbol of status and power. Behind tinted windows, deals worth millions were made every day. But today, something unusual was about to happen. A mystery client had scheduled a private showing. No name, no background, just a vague request for privacy. The real estate office was used to handling the rich and famous, but this was different. Then, a dusty, ordinary car pulled up outside. The moment Christine, the top agent, laid eyes on it, she frowned. Whoever this was, they didn't belong here. And yet, this man was about to turn her entire world upside down. Inside the exclusive real estate office, everything ran like clockwork. Clients arrived in luxury cars, dressed in designer suits, eager to outdo one another in wealth. This was a place where only the elite mattered. Keanu Reeves stepped in, moving with quiet confidence. He wasn't wearing a Rolex or a tailored suit. Instead, he had on a worn-out jacket, faded jeans, and sneakers that had seen better days. His hair was slightly messy, his face unshaven, and his presence completely unassuming. No one turned to look at him. No whispers, no recognition. And that was exactly what he wanted. The real estate manager, a man known for handling high-profile clients, instantly recognized him but remained professional. He didn't react with excitement or try to impress. Instead, he greeted Keanu with a respectful nod and gestured toward a sleek leather chair. "It's a pleasure to have you here," the manager said, his voice even. Keanu sat down, resting his hands on his lap. "I need a home that's simple, functional, but high quality," he said. "Something connected to nature, but not extravagant." The manager listened carefully. Most clients in this office wanted gold-plated sinks and marble staircases. Keanu wanted something different. "I have a few places in mind," the manager replied, taking notes. "But I assume privacy is important to you?" Keanu nodded. "I don't want any special treatment. No one needs to know who I am. I just want to be treated like any other buyer." The manager understood immediately. Celebrities often had to deal with people changing their behavior the moment they recognized them. Keanu wasn't here for admiration. He just wanted a fair deal. "I'll make sure your identity stays between us," the manager assured him. "Only the agent handling the showing will get basic details." Keanu offered a small smile. "That's all I need." With the visit scheduled, he left just as quietly as he had arrived. No one in the office batted an eye. He had blended in perfectly, just as he intended. Later that day, Christine received the client details. The file was frustratingly vague. No name, no background, just a brief note. "Prefers privacy. Seeking high-quality but functional home." She sighed, unimpressed. Another client who thought they were too important to give details. Probably a businessman with a mystery persona, or someone testing the market with no real intention to buy. Christine barely gave it a second thought as she closed the folder. If he wasn't serious, she wouldn't waste her time. Christine stood at the edge of the property, arms crossed, eyes scanning the empty driveway. The mansion behind her gleamed under the midday sun, a modern masterpiece of glass, stone, and steel. Everything about it screamed luxury. It was the kind of home meant for people who made bold statements, not for those who hesitated. She glanced at her watch. The client was late. Typical. Probably another time-waster who wanted to play the role of a serious buyer but had no real intention of making a purchase. Then a car pulled up. Not the sleek sports car or chauffeur-driven luxury vehicle she expected. Instead, a modest, slightly dusty sedan rolled to a stop. Christine felt her stomach tighten. The door opened, and a man stepped out. His jeans were slightly worn, his gray t-shirt simple. His sneakers had creases showing years of use. His hair had a slight messiness to it, and there wasn't the usual air of arrogance she associated with high-end buyers. He moved with ease, showing no urgency, no hunger to impress. Christine felt a smirk tug at the corner of her lips. She had dealt with dreamers before, people who liked to admire expensive homes but had no real business being there. "Can I help you?" she asked, keeping her tone polite but distant. "This property isn't open for casual viewings." The man met her gaze with calm eyes. "I have a scheduled visit." Christine frowned slightly, then quickly pulled out her tablet, fingers moving to check the day's appointments. When she saw the listing, she exhaled through her nose. He wasn't lying. She forced a tight smile. "Right? Well, I wasn't given many details, so I wasn't expecting you." His expression remained unchanged. "That's fine." Something about his steady demeanor irritated her. Most clients in this price range were eager to establish their status, proving they belonged in a place like this. But this man, he showed no signs of trying to fit in. Christine studied him again, searching for a clue. No expensive watch, no designer belt, no visible symbols of wealth. Her voice softened, but there was still an edge to it. "This home is top tier," she said, adjusting the cuff of her blazer. "It's designed for a certain type of client, someone who understands exclusivity and quality." "I understand quality," he replied, unbothered. She nodded slowly, not convinced. "Well, let's get started." As she turned toward the grand entrance, she muttered under her breath, just loud enough to be heard. "Some people love looking at homes way out of their budget." The man said nothing. He simply followed her inside, his expression unreadable. Christine stepped through the grand entrance, her heels clicking against the marble floor. She motioned toward the open space with a sweeping gesture, her voice carrying the practiced enthusiasm of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. "This foyer was designed to make an immediate impression," she said, glancing at the man beside her. "Guests should feel a sense of exclusivity the moment they step inside." Keanu looked around, his expression thoughtful. He didn't react the way most clients did. There was no nod of approval, no odd whispers. Instead, he walked over to the side wall, running his hand along the textured finish. "What material is this?" he asked casually. Christine barely held back a sigh. "It's Venetian plaster, hand-applied, a luxurious touch for those who appreciate fine craftsmanship." She paused, then added with a slight smirk, "Though, I'm guessing that's not something most people notice." Keanu only hummed in response, seemingly unfazed by her tone. They moved deeper into the house. Christine led him through the open living area, where floor-to-ceiling windows bathed the space in natural light. "These windows," Keanu said, pausing in front of them. "They look impressive, but how well are they insulated? Large glass panels can be a weak point for energy efficiency." Christine blinked, momentarily thrown off by the question. Most clients would have commented on the view, not the practicality. She recovered quickly. "They're top grade, of course," she said dismissively. "Designed for aesthetics, but I suppose efficiency matters too, for some buyers." Keanu nodded, his gaze drifting toward the ceiling. Christine followed his line of sight, waiting for the usual admiration of the custom chandeliers. "Are these lights dimmable?" he asked instead. Christine's smile tightened. "Yes, naturally. Every feature in this house is premium, the kind of details buyers in this market expect." She hesitated, then added with a pointed glance, "The kind of details serious buyers don't usually question." Keanu simply smiled, offering nothing in response. They reached the kitchen, where gleaming marble countertops stretched across the space, reflecting the overhead lighting. Christine leaned against the island, her tone shifting into something almost rehearsed. "This is Carrara marble," she announced. "One of the most expensive stones available, imported directly from Italy. It's the perfect statement piece." Keanu traced a finger over the smooth surface. "Carrara is beautiful, but it's also porous," he noted. "Has it been sealed properly? Otherwise, it stains easily." Christine exhaled through her nose. "I assure you this is a high-end property. No expense was spared. But I suppose some buyers are more concerned with practicality than design." Keanu's expression remained neutral. She turned, leading him toward the master suite, determined to regain control of the conversation. As they stepped inside, she spread her arms dramatically. "And here we have the master bedroom," she said, her voice taking on an air of finality. "It's designed for a homeowner who values both comfort and status." Some of my clients love showing this room off at social events, but I imagine that's not really your style." Keanu walked over to the window, ignoring her remark. He glanced outside at the backyard, where a line of trees swayed in the breeze. A faint smile touched his lips. "This is what I was looking for," he murmured. "A place with a natural connection." Christine folded her arms. "Some buyers prefer homes that make a statement," she said. "Others, well, they look for different things." Keanu turned to her, his eyes steady. "Sometimes, the best statement is how you treat people, not what you own." Christine forced a laugh, unsure why his words unsettled her. She had no idea that she was standing in front of a man who could buy this house 100 times over. Christine's patience had worn thin. Every question, every calm response from the man beside her felt like a challenge she wasn't willing to entertain any longer. She quickened her pace, barely glancing back to see if he was keeping up. She checked her watch. This showing had already taken longer than expected. In her mind, it was clear he wasn't serious about buying. No one who focused on minor details cared about a place like this. They returned to the kitchen, where the sunlight gleamed against the marble countertops. Christine folded her arms, tilting her head as she looked at Keanu. "This kitchen is designed for people who host," she said with a tight smile. "Formal dinners, social events, things that require a certain lifestyle." Her eyes flickered over his worn-out shoes before she added, "But I suppose that may not apply in your case." Keanu met her gaze without reacting. Instead, he turned to the custom cabinetry, opening a drawer and testing its motion. "Soft close hinges. That's good quality," he noted. Christine's jaw tensed. He wasn't playing along. She forced a small laugh, trying again. "Yes, only the finest. People who buy homes like this expect the best. They don't hesitate." Keanu nodded, as if her words were nothing more than background noise. Moving on, she led him back toward the master suite, her steps sharp against the polished floors. She was done entertaining his curiosity. Inside, she gestured toward the space with exaggerated enthusiasm. "This is the master bedroom, the heart of the home, designed for a homeowner who appreciates elegance and exclusivity." She let the words sink in before turning to face him fully. "Now, let's be honest. This property is for serious buyers. People who understand its worth and can make quick decisions. Are you sure this is the right place for you?" For the first time, silence stretched between them. Keanu looked around, taking in the high ceilings, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the carefully curated luxury. Then slowly he nodded. "I think I've seen enough," he said, voice even. Christine smirked. She had expected this. She had intimidated him. "I figured as much," she said, turning toward the door. "Most people don't realize how out of their depth they are until they're standing in it." Then, before she could take another step, a voice cut through the room. Christine, the real estate manager, had appeared in the doorway, his expression unreadable. She straightened, relieved to finally see someone who could move this along. "Yes, sir?" The manager stepped inside, his eyes flicking between her and Keanu. Then, to her confusion, his entire demeanor shifted. His face broke into a respectful smile. "Mr. Reeves, it's an honor to have you here. I trust the tour has been satisfactory." Christine's breath caught in her throat. "Mr. Reeves?" The name rang in her ears, louder than anything else in the room. Her eyes darted back to Keanu, her mind racing. "No, couldn't be. Keanu Reeves?" The manager extended a hand, which Keanu shook with the same quiet composure he had maintained throughout the tour. Christine's stomach dropped. She had spent the last hour talking down to Keanu Reeves, the same man who could probably buy the entire block if he wanted to. Her mouth went dry as she tried to recover. I had no idea," she stammered. Keanu turned to her, his face calm. "You didn't need to." The weight of the moment pressed down on Christine like a storm cloud. Just minutes ago, she had been certain, confident that she had put a clueless visitor in his place. Now, as the real estate manager extended his hand toward Keanu, her world tilted. "Mr. Reeves." It's an honor to have you here. I hope the tour met your expectations." Keanu shook his hand with the same quiet ease he had carried throughout the visit. "It's been enlightening," he said simply. Christine froze, her breath caught in her throat. Mr. Reeves? The name echoed in her mind, the truth crashing down on her all at once. She had dismissed him, mocked him, talked down to him. Her lips parted, but no words came out. The room fell silent. The other staff members who had just walked in exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from curiosity to shock. The few lingering workers in the background suddenly found reasons to stand still, their ears tuned into what was unfolding. Christine swallowed hard, scrambling for damage control. "Oh, I had no idea," she stammered, forcing a laugh that died in her throat. If she had known, she would have what? Treated him like royalty? Hung on to every word? She winced at her own thoughts. Keanu turned to her, his expression unreadable at first. Then, with a calm, almost amused smile, he said the words that made her stomach drop. "You didn't need to know who I was to treat me with respect." Christine's entire body stiffened. She felt exposed, her carefully built image shattered in a single sentence. She tried to force another smile, tried to laugh it off, but her face burned with humiliation. No excuse could undo what had just happened. The manager's smile faded as he slowly turned to her. His eyes narrowed, disapproving. Christine felt the floor disappear beneath her. The weight of the moment crushed Christine like a boulder. The air in the room shifted, thick with unspoken judgment. Murmurs spread. The staff members standing near the entrance whispered among themselves, exchanging knowing glances. She could feel it. The stares, the quiet disapproval hanging in the air. The very people who once saw her as confident now looked at her as if she were exposed, laid bare in her own arrogance. The manager cleared his throat, breaking the silence. His voice, usually warm and controlled, carried a sharp edge. "I sincerely apologize, Mr. Reeves," he said, hands clasped in front of him. "This is not how we treat our clients. This was an unfortunate misunderstanding." Christine flinched. The words, though directed at Keanu, cut through her. Keanu, however, remained composed. He didn't gloat, didn't let the moment stretch longer than it needed to. He simply looked at Christine, his face calm yet firm. "I don't hold grudges," he said, voice steady. "But I do hope this is a learning experience." Christine's stomach twisted. The kindness in his tone made it worse. He wasn't angry. He wasn't trying to humiliate her. But he didn't need to. She had done that to herself. Her face burned with shame. She opened her mouth to speak, to salvage something, to claw back a shred of dignity. "Mr. Reeves, I truly didn't mean to." He gave a small nod, not unkind, but dismissive. "It's fine," he said simply. The conversation was over. Christine felt her throat tighten. No defense, no excuse, nothing would change what had already happened. As Keanu turned toward the manager to finalize the paperwork, Christine noticed the way her colleagues avoided her gaze. Some exchanged small, knowing looks. They had seen her condescension before, but now she was the one being looked down on. She had spent so long judging others, assuming their worth based on appearances. And now she was the one being silently measured. For the first time, she understood what that felt like. The contract lay open on the desk. The room was silent except for the faint scratch of a pen gliding across paper. Keanu Reeves was signing the deal. Christine stood frozen, watching as the moment she had ruined played out before her. He was still buying the house. But not because of her, despite her. She wanted to say something to fix what was beyond repair. But what could she say? No words could erase the way she had treated him. Keanu placed the pen down and looked at the manager. His voice remained steady, calm, yet firm. "I have one request before we finalize this." The manager nodded eagerly. "Of course, Mr. Reeves. Anything." Keanu's eyes flicked toward Christine just for a moment before settling back on the manager. "I want to make sure that every client who walks through this door, no matter how they dress, no matter what car they drive, is treated with respect. Christine's breath hitched. There was no anger in his voice, no need for revenge. Just a simple, clear statement that left no room for argument. The manager swallowed hard and nodded. Absolutely, I can personally guarantee that. Keanu gave a small, satisfied nod. That was all he needed to say. Christine felt the words hit her like a weight pressing down on her chest. She had been singled out without him even saying her name. The paperwork was done. The house was his. Keanu rose from his chair, sliding his hands into his pockets with his usual quiet ease. Christine wanted him to look at her, to give her one last chance to prove she wasn't the person she had just shown herself to be. But he didn't. He simply turned, walking toward the door with the same calmness he had entered with. And that was what hurt the most. Christine had spent the entire tour judging him, assuming he didn't belong. But in the end, she was the one left standing there, feeling small. She had lost something more valuable than a sale. She had lost his respect. And she knew she would never forget this lesson.